Okay, so now that we've already gone through the whole process of how to create collections, import photos, rate them, color them, the next thing that we want to start doing is we want to start editing our photos. So I'm going to click up here on the develop module. Now today I'm only going to show you a couple of the tools, and it's just enough knowledge to make you dangerous. So I'm going to select this photo right here. And the first thing I want to do is I want to crop it a little bit tighter. I want to get rid of this area right here. So this first option right here is our crop overlay. Now you can open up your crop window by pressing the letter R, and it opens up your crop window. So now I can resize that, and by using the mouse I can move that around. So I want to crop that a little tighter. We're going to go rule of thirds, which we'll talk about a little more, and I can even tilt that just a little bit. Okay, so now I can crop my image a little bit tighter. The next adjustment I want to show you right here is called your white balance. Now, do you ever notice how different lights have different temperatures? So like LED lighting tends to be a little bit on the cooler side, but like the old incandescent light bulbs tend to be a little bit on the warmer side. What your white balance adjustment does is it allows you to compensate for that. Okay, so I can cool the image off, or I can warm it up. Or I can just use the dropper and I can click on a white area. Okay, I like to find an area that's a little bit gray. Okay, like a light gray color. And that's what I'm going to use for my white balance. So you'll notice the difference. There's the original, here's original, and here's the adjusted. The next one down is your tint. And the tint is what you're going to control to adjust the green or the magenta shift, and that's going to depend on what kind of camera system you're using. Some camera systems tend to be a little bit more green, some will tend to be a little bit more on the magenta side. The next one we have is our exposure. So if you took a photo that's a little bright, you can drag that to the left to darken it. And likewise, if you took one that's a little dark, you can drag it to the right to brighten it up a little bit. Okay? Up here at the top with your histogram, you want to watch right here for your clipping. In other words, if I'm going too bright, okay, I have areas that are so bright they're blown out where I no longer have any detail left. So I'm going to adjust my exposure a little bit. Contrast. Contrast is the difference between light and dark. So when I increase my contrast, I'm going to make my whites brighter, and I'm going to make my blacks darker. If I go the other way, it reduces that, and it's going to make the image look a little more flat. So we're just going to go plus 10 on that, and I'm actually going to bring my exposure down just a little bit. Now, a little trick for you. If I put my mouse over top of the value for each one, I can just press up and down and adjust them by pressing up and down on the keyboard. Highlights, those are the bright areas of the image. So like right here, if I drag my highlights to the left, it's going to recover some of that image information. If I go all the way to the right, it's going to blow it out where I can no longer see any detail. Okay, same thing with the shadows. Shadows are your dark areas where I can brighten them up or I can darken them. Actually, I'll brighten up my shadows just a little bit. Okay, whites, this is an extra control for the white areas where we can just bring a little more contrast into the whites, and I can do the same thing with the black areas. Now, these four down here, clarity is almost like a little bit of sharpness, and I want you to look right here at the windscreen on the microphone. If I drag it all the way to the left, okay, it almost looks like a Facetune filter. Please don't ever use that. If I go all the way to the right, it makes it really sharp and it brings out a lot of that detail. Be careful when using clarity. If you use it on somebody's face, it will make them look like something out of a horror film. Okay? So every tool that you use in Lightroom, it's one of those things where don't use it because you have it. Use it because it will actually enhance the photograph. Dehaze. Sometimes if you're shooting outside and it's kind of hazy out, you can actually kind of sharpen the images up a little bit and get rid of that haze. Your vibrance is like the color pop. So if I drag that to the right, it's really going to make my colors just super intense. If I drag it to the left, it's going to make my colors kind of blah. Okay? And that's another thing with the photo of a person. If you use too much vibrance, you're going to make them look like an Oompa Loompa. I'm going to zero that out. Saturation is how much of that color you have. Okay? So if like you're completely saturated, you're soaking wet. So I can really soak it with color. Or if I drag it all the way to the left, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to get rid of all the color, which is going to make it what? Black and white. Okay? So then we turn it into a black and white image. Okay? Now, there's another way to do a black and white. And if I go up here where it says treatment, I can click on black and white. And will automatically give me just black and white controls. Okay, so where I can adjust that. So what you want to do today is the photos that you've selected in your My First Photos collection. Okay, I want you to go through and practice doing a little bit of editing with them. And then later, once you get the hang of it, I'll show you a couple of things that are going to make your editing a lot easier.